Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Bozzelli's TV, the most interesting wine channel on the internet. Why are we the most interesting wine channel on the internet? Because we consider wine a...
food.
Thank you, Holly. Special thanks goes to our perennial special guest star, Holly Rocco-Ferracci, for once again inviting us into her beautiful home on George Washington's estate. 12345 Airport Road is the address. She gives full tours on Sundays. So, but Holly and I really do start. And again, I forgot to introduce myself because since our debut episode, by the way, I'm Mike Bozzelli. I'm Mike Bozzelli, everyone. And we also are celebrating a couple milestones. Okay, so this is episode 8. That was 10, but I'm really excited. Okay, this is episode 8. And we're also celebrating that a few of our shows have broken 1,000 views on YouTube. So thanks for the support. Yay. Thank you. We could use some more likes and comments. And if you turn on notifications, that would really help my bank account. But we're fine with views for now.
And ego.
And ego.
I thought you said lights, not likes. And I was like, we can arrange that. I mean, we have light show and laser shows we could put up.
We'll do that. We'll do that. But Holly, see, and there you go. This is the brains of the show, and that's why she's perennial special guest. We really do strive to bring you compelling content and to introduce you to the luminaries in the wine world. We don't just try to be cute. We also try to be educational. Holly right now is studying for something really hard that I always forget how to pronounce, even though it's a really easy acronym. I think it's WST. But what is that, Holly?
Wine and Spirits Education Trust Diploma.
She's studying for that right now to educate you guys as along with herself, because she is so interested in the trade, in this business of wine. And so that's why we're here. And this is, again, another special episode because we have who I consider a legend in the business, who helped us, helped me from day one, helped me sell wine. Even though she works for a multinational, publicly traded behemoth monster alcohol company. They own everything. Corona, Modelo, Svedka. When it comes to wine, Charles Smith, Prisoner, Kim Crawford. They own everything.
Not everything.
If you have it, okay.
Not everything.
Not everything. But the name of the company is Constellation Brands. They're huge, but as you will see by the end of this episode, their people are very down to earth and very warm and welcoming. There's no ego like here, like right here. There's no ego. There's no ego with them, and the company mantra is worth reaching for, and I love that. I feel like it has a communal theme to it. Worth reaching for. Let's all reach for something together. Let's all enjoy. Some libations or spirits, or you got, like I said, you guys own everything. Granola bars. I don't know what else you guys own, but you guys own a lot. They just invested in a black-owned business, which is really awesome. Donné Burston's rosé company, and we've been really supportive of that. It is a phenomenal product. And Constellation Brands has invested a lot of money in that business because they truly do believe in it. And Donné has a remarkable resume coming from Dom and Vouv. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very impressed. But that will end my long-winded introduction today because we have an awesome guest for you. We have Krysti Atwood from Constellation Brands. Yay, Krysti! And we're so excited to meet with her because they own a lot, they know a lot, she knows a lot, she can get really scientific about wine, and that's why we invited her on the show. And I always start, as you know, because you watch our show, I ask our guests, how did they get their start in the business and how they end up with this monster $1 trillion company like we have today. But yes, Krysti, how'd you get the start in the business and how'd you end up with this monster $1 trillion company today? We all really want to know.
Well, I am bottom of the totem pole of the monster $1 trillion company.
What did I say? Down to earth.
Happy to be at bottom of the totem pole. You got to start somewhere, right?
Cheers
to that. So I got my start in the business. I was a teacher for 2 years. And I was in my hometown. I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, PA, Penn Stater. And I was moving to the beach in the summer times to bartend, the teacher salary and stuff, which was so much fun. And I met so many industry people between wine sales reps, liquor sales reps, beer sales reps.
Which beach? I'm sorry.
Ocean City, Maryland.
Okay,
I was
there's
at
no
Harpoon
beach in PA.
Hannah's. No, so I was moving to the beach.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Ocean City.
Ocean City.
Good
Sometimes
times.
called Ocean Shitty, but we love it.
Beautiful boardwalk.
Yeah. But anyway, so when the recession hit, not the best time to decide this, in 2008, I said, I'm going to pack up my bags, move out of my hometown, and move to the big city of Washington, D.C. Not too far. I could still crawl home if shit hit the fan. And couldn't find a teaching job. I mean, at that time, everything, all the budgets and stuff were getting cut. And I had reached out to one of the contacts I had met bartending. And he was very helpful to introduce me to some people in the liquor business and the wine business. And I was fortunate enough to land a job with RNDC, Republic National Distributing Company, who Holly works for, in Washington, D.C.
Holly's name will be appearing now. Her company and Krysti's name will be appearing now.
Yeah.
And I always forget to do mine.
It was awesome. And Washington, D.C. is such a cool city. I know you and Manning love to go out to dinner to all the fancy places. And there's just these cute little neighborhoods. And it's very, so much culture and diversity. And it's a transient city. There's just so many different kinds of people, and
you're saying transient in a good way, though.
Yeah,
that's the first for
people
me.
are coming in, and
you like that.
Yeah,
it's DC. I mean, people are coming here for different facets of work, and I'm from Rhode Island. My husband is Georgia, and we met in DC. So many people that we know, wouldn't have met or come from very different places, and they meet in DC.
There's lots of opportunities
cool.
between just, again, all the different.
But the other side of the
industries
coin, the criticism, because I'm born and raised in here. I'm born and raised in DC. Is that nobody's really from here, and I was like, I am. You guys you're the cool kids. She's from Rhode Island. She's from PA, and I'm from here.
But I think that's cool because it brings so many different people. I mean, I grew up in a very small town. I mean, I had a wonderful growing up, but it's like when I went to college, it's like I met my first Buddhist. I met my first Jewish Judaism person with, and it's like you just meet. I met my first person from India. I mean, I'd never met someone from it, and I think that's
so
a
many
really
cultures,
cool
and it
culture and
translates
diversity
into the food culture,
to the food and the wine and the beverage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just something unique to our area, I think, and because people are highly educated here in this area, and it's one of the most educated in the country, and so people really do delve into food and wine here, and really want to explore it, which is a really cool part of our job,
really
being
cool
able to work
it.
within that environment. Yeah.
Really cool. So that was a lot of fun, and then I had an opportunity to move to the supplier side of the business, to Constellation. I guess I've been here 8 years now, which is crazy. I mean, a marriage, 2 kids, Constellation for 8 years, really crazy. But
and I think in our preliminary interview, because we do preliminaries because we're serious about compelling content,
or just in our friendship, Mike.
or just in our friendship. There you go.
We weren't there yet. I don't know. Oh, this is awkward.
Boom. She's funny too. So, but I remember you saying in our friendship, our dear friendship, that you felt like you earned your stripes supporting the DC restaurant scene. Was that when you were at the distribution level, or was that when you were at the supplier level?
Yeah, right now I cover the Virginia market.
Correct.
And then when I was in DC, I covered DC, which was, that job was crazy.
At which level? The distribution or supply?
Distribution. Yeah. With RNDC, I mean, DC. It's when you're a salesperson, everything's in your car. I mean, that's like your office, your house,
Your life.
sometimes your bed, like and you have to drive everywhere. It's nuts. I remember. I mean, this was kind of before the times of GPSs. So I had a big road map and I plotted out all my accounts. And then I'd be like driving and I'd be like, oh God, there's a circle. And then I'd like drive around the circle 3 times. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm getting off. And
that's Logan Circle or Thomas Circle.
Yeah. It was nuts. But there's some really cool restaurants. And I mean, Northern Virginia is now, very similar.
And so I think we have a lot of foodies that watch your show, and they'd probably be curious to know what were some of the hot restaurants at that time that you were supporting. That you were supporting.
That I was supporting.
There
was a place called Mazza 14, and honestly,
Mazza 14.
Mazza 14. It's
on
a great
14th
place.
Street.
I remember we hung out there a lot. The whole Old Ebbitt Grill.
Old Ebbitt Grill around the corner from the White House.
Hamilton and some of their other places, Clyde's, Matchbox. That was when they first kind of started growing. I helped.
The Chinatown store?
So Chinatown, and then they opened the one on 14th Street when I was.
So that's when Matchbox was like ultra cool. And I never got to experience Matchbox.
Ultra cool.
But they were ultra cool at one time.
And then Adams Morgan, there's that big whiskey bar, like right on the corner. I forget. It's like Jack's or
Jack's. Yeah.
It's like a name. But anyway, there were so many fun and
place. I can't remember the name of
great sushi restaurants and oh my gosh, Thai restaurants and Indian and
Old Ebbitt is a top 10 restaurant in America. It always makes the top 10
always.
list.
Yeah, always.
So,
it's crazy.
So that was your account.
Their liquor room. Whoa.
Really?
I can only
Insane.
imagine.
Okay.
Insane. But anyway,
I'm sure we saw each other there plenty of times.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I was, quite the goer-outer in those days. But
well, you have to be in this business.
Yes, you do. It's so relationship based, and you have to think about the fact that there's, hundreds of thousands of different wines in the world, and it's really. That's what's so great about your show. It's really about telling the story of the wine. I mean, granted, it's all about what you like, right? Like, you have to find wines that you like and enjoy and love to drink, but I think it can make certain wines more appealing when you know the story behind it. So that's a great transition to talk about our first 2 wines.
That really
right?
is.
And that's something that I love, I think, the most about wine is... sometimes I think we can get in a little bit of a tiz with some of the beer people because they're like, beer is so great. And don't get me wrong, I spend like $100 some a month on beer, but wine it's so specific. You have one shot every single year to get it right. And there's so much that goes into it. I mean, you're talking about fruit on a tree. I mean, just last year, a lot of Virginia and Maryland, they lost all their apple crop. Yeah. I mean, just because of a late freeze in the middle of May. And it's the same thing with grapes. It's a produce, it's a crop. And
so now I hear the supplier coming out.
Yeah, but it's...
Yeah, I hear the supplier.
But it's true.
It's what wineries and growers and vineyards and winemakers do. It's so... scientific, and I think it can be very romanticized sometimes, and we think you're sitting back and you're like but there's so much to it, and whether it be frost and rain and winds and hail and too much sun, not enough sun, there's just so much that can affect a crop. Fires, we've all heard about that in the last couple of years. It's a very difficult job, and I have so much respect for the people that do it.
And a big boy like one of your most popular brands, The Prisoner, have they ever missed a vintage?
So
because of some natural disaster.
They have not made some of their winery only wines if a vintage wasn't good, but
is that when it becomes NV non-vintage?
Yeah. So if something would become non-vintage, that would mean they use
Grapes.
juice
Yeah.
or usually juice from a previous vintage, usually just a year old. And what they do is they keep the juice. I mean, this is where it gets scientific. They keep the juice nice and cool so that there's not really any aging taking place or any more fermentation or anything. They keep the wine very, very stable so that it still exhibits the same kind of taste profile that it would even in like a next vintage.
And this happens as a result of a bad frost or a spike in heat or something.
I mean, it can happen whatever Mother Nature decides to freaking throw at you. It can, it really can.
So even for like a brand like Prisoner,
yes,
shit happens to them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean,
it can also be a stylistic decision, not whether aside. There are plenty of what we call non-vintage wines, or multi-vintage wines is sort of a newer term, where you want to have newer and maybe 1 or 2 year old. You're now adding complexity and depth when you start bringing in juice from other vintages, and like prime examples of that, champagne or sherry. I mean, there's all sorts of examples where you're blending previous vintages. It's not just weather related where you would choose to do that. It could be just purely a stylistic decision as well.
Because I know Prisoner also has a very high bar for their juice.
They do, and something that's really interesting. So we're tasting the two unshackled wines today, the Red Blend and the Cabernet Sauvignon, which are fairly new from the Prisoner Wine Company. Unshackled was created. I mean, the Prisoner is the Prisoner, right? It is this just amazing red blend that most people in the wine industry will tell you, like Dave Finney and the Prisoner started the red blend craze. I mean, he was instrumental in at a time when wines were varietally labeled. That people weren't drinking blends, and if they were blends, it was labeled like Burgundy or Bordeaux and like big jugs of wine. And he really took a chance and releasing a number one Zinfandel based blend with a really creepy, scary label at a very high price point, but people they loved it. And I mean, that is truly what created this trend that now you see all the different red blends. And red wines and some white wines too are typically blends. I mean, you're usually not drinking 100% varietal. Usually there's a couple other varietals blended in there. So I think it helped educate consumers as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Unshackled was created because, I mean, I married a teacher, so we can't afford $60 a bottle of wine every night. So Unshackled is...
What's the price point on this then?
So it's probably in the high 20s, low 30s, somewhere in there. High 20s. But it's made to be more of that everyday style drinking wine. It's not quite as big and complex as the Prisoner, but it still has the same kind of bold fruit tendencies, very, very soft on the palate, easy to drink, great with food or without. I mean, this is like...
I love it. It's really accessible.
What do you call it? The couch, what was your saying? Was that you? Maybe not. The couch pounder or something like that? Oh, that doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound good.
This is not that show.
Moving on.
This is a wine show.
Moving on. But the Red Blend is Zinfandel based, just like the Prisoner Red Blend, with a little bit of Malbec, Petit Syrah, and Syrah as well. But you see, it's really fresh. It's bright,
fresh,
good
bright,
fruit.
Delicious, accessible, affordable. On the nose, though, I'm a little congested, Holly. What should I be smelling on the nose?
So lots of brambleberries. You've got your cherry and your raspberry, some violet.
Definitely some spice.
Some white pepper. Yeah.
White pepper. That's a thing. That's pretty cool. Okay.
Pepper is very, very common in red wines, especially with wines that have Syrah, Petit Syrah, Cab Franc, those can kind of be like the spice rack grapes that really give a little bit more of that dimension to the wine.
And how long has Unshackled been on the market, Krysti? Or what was your first?
Oh my gosh, probably like a year and a half. It hasn't been very long, but it's been super successful. I mean, I think we all love these wines that are easier on the pocketbook, easy to just sit down and drink. And you know, I always find actually all of these that we're drinking, but these two, they're crowd pleasers. They're, if you're going to a dinner party, if you're having people over, now that we can do that again, hooray. They're crowd pleasers. They're just, if people like red wine, and we've even had, Holly, when we have been out tasting with people, we've even had people say, I don't usually like red wine, but this wine, it's like softer. You don't have that like tannic bite, that dryness that you can get in red wine.
Because the American palate, it just craves flavor. And so with your double porterhouse with a half pound of butter and side salad with a gallon of ranch, you need something to cut that flavor. So you got to drink big Cali cabs that are so tannic with so much mouthfeel. That's why you're drinking Cali cabs. But we want to introduce you to blends.
We're also going to introduce you to Cali cabs.
Well, timing is
it all comes full circle.
Timing is everything. I would not have gone on that tirade if I knew you were going to say that. I had no idea we were going to be tasting a cab next, but that's fine because, as you know, I'm biased about Italian wines and Italian winemakers. We still love
pizza
and pizza and neighbors.
And if it wasn't for the Italians, you know, and it was really sort of people like Robert Mondavi, right? So he's an Italian American, but you know, he spent a lot of time in France and in Italy and Europe and learned, you know, sort of that style of winemaking, but really became, you know, really understood the culture of food and wine. And so if it wasn't for Italian Americans like Robert Mondavi,
and immigrants, I mean,
and
his
immigrants in
parents
general,
were.
His parents
so
were,
they bring this culture, and they brought the grapes, and they brought the whole winemaking.
Franzia, Indelicato, Gallo, Mondavi,
it's
Trinchero, a lot of Italian heritage. And then
it really brought that culture.
Krysti, though, and we're going to do a separate show on this.
Not Italian.
No, Kristi's not Italian, but we won't hold that against her. But
I eat pizza to be Italian.
We'll adopt her.
Okay, I'm in.
She's in. Hey, Luco, we got another one. But I was gonna say, you also, because you guys own everything, you own Tony Soprano's favorite wine, Rufino Chianti.
Yeah, isn't he the Reserva di Cali? Chianti Classico Reserva di Cali. Yeah.
And so we want to do a separate show on just Rufino, and we're gonna, of course, talk a lot about the Sopranos.
Not have any Cali cabs.
And not have any Cali cabs on that show, but Krysti's gonna make that happen.
Yes, we're doing that soon.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the Unshackled Cab. And I do want to share a really interesting thing about The Prisoner. So The Prisoner Wine Company, Krysti Whitman, who's the lead winemaker, and Nikki Williams. Female winemakers too.
Winemaking team,
Yes. The Prisoner, they do not have any estate vineyards. And I think sometimes this concept can have a little bit of a negative connotation, but we want to tell you why it doesn't. So Napa Valley is 70% independent grower owned. So that means that these are vineyards that are owned by growers and not huge estates, not, you know, big wineries. And some of these, Sonoma is, I think, even just a little bit higher than that, but some of these growers, and we've been fortunate enough to hear some of their stories and a little bit of their take on the relationship between the prisoner and them. Some of these vineyards have they're heritage vineyards. It's fourth, fifth, sixth generation of family that, you know, maybe started out as produce or cattle farming and then planted grapes. I mean, some in the late 1800s, some, you know, in the mid 1900s after Prohibition. But it's been very interesting to hear their stories. And I mean, what's the first varietal that you think about when you hear Napa Valley?
Cabernet.
Yeah, right? But in Napa Valley, I mean, there are so many other varietals and there are so many other kinds of grapes that have been planted and growing there for, I mean, 100 years, 50 to 100 years. So what a winery like The Prisoner does is it gives those growers a place for their fruit. And you know, it's definitely it's a relationship and it's a partnership, because the winery, you know, whoever you're contracting with has to be supportive, and they have to work together on when is the right time, what is the right time to pick, what does the vineyard need, you know, do we need to irrigate, do we need this, do we need that? So it really becomes an amazing, really beautiful partnership.
I was gonna employ this adage in our previous episode if you watched it, but good thing you did it, because I didn't employ it then, but I'm gonna employ it now.
Perfect timing.
Because I had expected to be, I think we were, I don't know, we were gonna have the winemaker here, but they couldn't make it, but we had the national brand director and he was awesome, Jason Tesaro. But there's an old adage in the wine business, the wine is made in the vineyard.
Yes.
And after what Krysti just said, that
It
really
further brings
hit
that point
home.
Yeah.
For me, the wine is made.
It does.
And I could tell
It does.
you've walked fields or vineyards.
One time I got to, well, two times now I've got to help with harvesting, which I don't even know if they use the fruit. It was so hard.
That's
it was
awesome.
so
That is
difficult. And I
awesome.
mean, you just, what's so crazy, and you think about what people do. I mean, the winemakers and the growers, they're walking the vineyards like once spring hits and like budding starts and everything, they're walking the vineyards all the time. I mean, whether they need to like prune or, you know,
and
cut
it's
back
really
some
cool
of the...
too. Like you start tasting the berries or the
Yeah.
grapes, right? And so they're having to do this every day, and they're doing it in different spots throughout the vineyard because they have to test like the sugars and the acidity of the grapes, and they're doing this regularly where they're, you know, you can break it, you know, you can kind of break the grape and taste it, and you can kind of see where the phenolics are and the sugars, and you know, so that's a, you know, constant. And then just the pruning of the vines and
just everything. I mean, it's like they're little babies. They just, you know, they have to make sure that everything is perfect about it. And I mean, some of these winemakers, they're putting like tens of thousands of miles on their car, especially for The Prisoner, since they work with, I mean, I think it's like 80 some different growers from, I mean, all the way up like North Coast, all the way down to Santa Barbara.
I'd hate to be in their purchasing department.
It is a lot, but it really is. It's their babies. It's what you got to do to make good wine. And I think, again, it can be romanticized. I mean, and I think sometimes the winemaker gets all backbreaking. The winemaker sometimes gets all the credit. Winemaker sometimes gets all the credit. When, if you talk to any winemaker, they will be like, it's all in the fruit. Yeah. And if you have really good
the
fruit,
fields and the hands are gnarled, and you know.
And that job's not easy. Krysti just informed you.
It is not easy.
It is. Don't think picking grapes is easy.
Is you, and probably a lot of you have been to a vineyard before, but if you just stand at the end of a row and you just look down, like you can't even see the end of it, right? It's just like so
I'm looking
far,
right now. I can't see
right?
the wow.
And then like you think about, there's like hundreds of, well, depending on how big the vineyard is, there's, I mean, like rows as far as you can see, and you just have to think about like harvesting all of that. It's crazy.
And they get surgical about where the fruit comes from, because Holly and I interviewed a winemaker, and he said, we've got 800 acres, but for this flagship, we pull from this 20-acre area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It can be little sort of like patchwork vineyards. Yeah. So, and
that's cool.
It can depend on, I mean, what's so crazy about a vineyard, depending on how big it is there can almost be like little like microclimates within a vineyard
That is
where
cool,
it
people.
gets like maybe a little bit more sun or the soil is different
A
or
couple vines, one
Yeah,
microclimate. Two vines over, different microclimate.
totally different.
Yeah.
And I mean, also, you know, some vineyards are planted, if they haven't been like replanted, it's like they're almost planted the way that they've been planted for decades. So, you know, you can have some Cab here, some Merlot here, you can have some Chardonnay here, or whatever. It can be sort of all over the place. So then you're even managing a vineyard by little parcels. It's nuts. It's nuts.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
This is a very drinkable
This
cab
is
for a
my
non-cab drinker.
Favorite of the two. I mean, I definitely think it's still for a Cab drinker because it's bigger. It does have a little bit of that tannin, but it's
Pucker.
yeah, but it's not anything where you like need to have food with it.
I don't know if Holly
still
agrees, but I think the operative word is bigger without being tannic.
Yeah, bold but soft tannin.
Thank you.
Bold fruit, soft tannin structure. Yeah, mouth coating.
So yeah, this is my kind of cab for a Barola.
It's a great pizza wine.
For a Barola drinker, this is my kind of cab.
This is nothing like Barolo.
You heard it. She reps it.
Literally. No. Sorry.
No, sorry.
honey.
Not at all.
Aw,
Not at all.
good
But
try.
we're enjoying this unshackled Cabernet.
Yeah.
And we also really enjoyed the blend. Prisoner, I mean, they stand by their product. They set a very high bar, as Krysti and Holly just discussed. So
They really do. And they also, I mean, you know, the marketing and the artwork and the Prisoner Winery. So there is a winery right in Napa Valley, right in the heart of Oakville. I mean, just up from Robert Mondavi, Nickel and Nickel, right on 29,
Ballers
but-
Row.
Yeah,
Ballers Row.
but they always do these just beautiful labels and artwork. So this is kind of meant to look like one of those old crypto locks or whatever they were called. I always think of the Da Vinci Code, so you can see
I
the
think of
name
the Christmas
on there.
story. The little kid
Yes,
with the
yes,
lock
yes. Yes, yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. But the winery, now that things have started to open back up and everything, they have this really cool experience that you can do at the winery called the Makery. And there's a whole wing of the winery that's devoted to showcasing local artists' work. And it can be art from all different mediums. I mean,
The Makery?
ceramic to, to painting to batiking to like, you know, canvas bag making, just all kinds of different mediums, and they feature different artists.
I wanna
and
go
you
to
can
the
do a
Makery.
tasting trip.
I want to go to the Makery because that sounds like the when Sony was cool, like the Sony Make Believe Lab. When
with
Sony was
alcohol.
cool, yeah, with alcohol. But now Apple has supplanted Sony, so
Sony's still cool.
Sony's still cool.
Yeah, I just got their earbud things that are like half the price of the
props.
AirPods,
Props.
and
Nice.
they're
But
they work great.
Yeah, growing up, Sony, brought a lot of happiness to my life.
Me
in
too.
the form of
First Walkman.
Walkman, and a lot of movies. They also owned a lot of record labels. Michael Jackson was on their label. So yeah, Sony was fun. But this is a wine
Cheers to
show.
Sony.
But this is a wine show. Okay.
We gotta cut back on the Cabernet now, guys. Okay. All right. So the next winery that we're going to talk about, all right, Prisoner, you're moving over to the side, is another fun one that Constellation just started working with. So we're doing My Favorite Neighbor next. So My Favorite Neighbor, and this is by a winery down in Paso Robles called Booker. Eric Jensen is the owner, and he is just this larger than life character.
Hottie alert. Oh wait, see, I'm
all
getting
in
nervous.
love
I'm just getting
with.
nervous
Yes.
thinking about Eric's good
Yeah.
looks. Like I'm trying to eat
he's-
this pretzel.
He's got good looks, but he also has this great personality. And I think there's few people, I mean, over this last year, I'm sure like everyone else, we've just been put through the Zoom and WebEx ringer. Mm-hmm. And there's very few people who can be engaging and you can almost feel their passion
And hot.
from a screen. That certainly helps. Thank God you're good looking, Mike.
It's my show. She has to say that.
I don't. But anyway.
Because we're rich. We have our own constellations.
I am not. The bottom of the totem pole will take donations.
We own Svedka. Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Too much cap.
You're cut off.
Too much cap.
Eric Jensen. Okay, so anyway, there's very few people that can come off that way through a video screen. And I mean, he's just, you can just feel it, how passionate and like his whole heart is.
It's very
into
earthy.
It. And he is. I mean, he farms all biodynamically. Everything is organic. He always says you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. So
I think part of the kind of, sometimes you can find silver linings in bad situations. And so we just went through COVID. And, I think one of the silver linings to kind of where you were going with that too, is that when Eric was doing all these like Zoom virtual tastings with consumers, and then also doing training seminars with his distributors, right? So two different faces of two different sort of points of sale, if you will, right? Talking to the consumer versus talking to his distributors. And, without COVID, he may not have done so many of those virtuals all over the country and reached out to so many people so quickly. And I think what that did, much credit to Eric's personality is and his looks, is it created really like a cult classic with this wine. Mm-hmm. I mean, everywhere he went, every virtual tasting with consumers, people fell in love with this wine. And so it really is like a new cult classic. I mean, we can talk about Screaming Eagle, or we can talk about, so many of these big wines that you just can't get anymore.
Do you remember some of the selling points from those Zoom meetings, Holly, that really like sold this sucker?
Oh, I think for me, for sure, the story behind the wine and how it got the name of My Favorite Neighbor and the label of the old sort of tin can telephone. As kids, you'd always like, that was always a game, right? You'd play the game of Operator or something like that. So to me, that's what I think of when I see the label.
So the origin story, not so much a production.
So the story of the wine is so Eric, he came from the music industry and he knew he wanted to buy a vineyard and get into the wine business. So I think he had done some research in Napa, but Napa is impossible. I mean, Napa's tiny. It's like 1 mile long by 3 miles high. There's just nothing left, and everything that's left it's so expensive. Where if you come down south to Paso is a newer region. It offers great value, and it's a beautiful wine growing region.
Have you been?
I have.
Really?
Yes. One time I have been, and it's such a cool little town. Like there's a little town of Templeton, and then there's another little town, and like, you're 10 mile. You're
dive bars
10
galore.
Eric, I think he told a story about how he came down from Napa and he comes to Paso and he quickly like put his Rolex away. It's like, it's very, relaxed. Everybody knows everybody, and very collaborative down there, which is, how My Favorite Neighbor started. So anyway, he gets his vineyard and he realizes that he's going to need some kind of a mentor or some help learning how to grow down here.
Because he came from the music industry.
Yes. But I think he had some kind of a wine background. I can't remember. Too much cab. But anyway, so he goes over to his neighbor Stefan Aseo of Lid Venture Winery, which is a very high-end winery in Paso. He knocks on his door and he asks Stefan to mentor him. And, Stefan is like, how much are you going to pay me? And yes, okay.
So this French winery based in Napa is very reputable.
In Paso.
Yes,
so Paso.
We're in Paso now, not Napa.
Very reputable. I mean, Stefan he's French,
highly
and he's
acclaimed.
brought
Highly acclaimed,
and he's brought, kind of those French winemaking, tendencies and techniques.
Robert
to
Parker
Paso.
knows who he is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But,
Would you? No, I'm going to stop there.
Yeah.
It's a reputable winery. Shut up, Mike.
It's really great. But anyway, so these two develop this friendship over the next 6 months. And when Eric kind of goes to pay Stefan, he's like, no, we're friends now. Like, this is So when Eric created his My Favorite Neighbor Cabernet, he dedicated it to Stefan because Stefan would call him, and Eric would pick up and he'd be like, "Hello, Eric, it is your favorite neighbor." And Eric would be like, "Yeah, dude, I know. We have caller ID, and also you're the only French guy that I know that calls me."
If we don't get 1,000 likes for this fake French accent, I'm canceling the show. Holly and I are walking away. I mean it. 1,000 likes for that fake French accent. Love it.
Thank you. I practice it like 30 times. But anyway, and now he works with other vineyards in Paso to source some of the Cabernet and some of the other varietals that go into this. So it's and I think it just like it encapsulates the aura of Paso. It's everybody helps everybody.
Yeah.
There
are a lot
friendly.
of people in Paso who are truly following their American dream. Like that's kind of what Paso is about. There's a lot of
alcohol.
Different.
Yeah. Well, there's alcohol everywhere, honey.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right.
So it's filled with these awesome stories. And that's part of what makes Paso so cool.
And so we've done a few shows. My wine IQ is not as high as theirs. Let's just say
it's higher than you would think. Though.
No, it's not. It's not. This is. I'm just.
Give yourself some credit.
I do some due diligence. I do like to read. I'm a big reader. Pizza Hut just started their book program again, so fans of that. But what I have learned is that a wine of this caliber, and now we've entered into a different price range with this wine.
Yeah.
That there's more going on with the nose.
Yeah.
And you used a word just a minute ago, Krysti, and I love the word you used because I think it encapsulates what I'm smelling on the nose, and that's an aura.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This wine has an aura on the nose. Holly will help with the tasting notes on the palate.
But it's aromatic, right? So that's kind of
jumps out of the glass.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I can smell it from
there's an intensity
right here.
For sure.
I don't even need to.
Yeah.
That's what you're really paying for. And price point wise, where are we with this? Just generally.
59,
50s,
60,
yeah,
59-ish.
50s, 60s.
So we're $59.99, guys.
At Bozzelli's, we give you the best price.
We give you the best price, or casewinelife.com.
Casewinelife.com.
Free shipping on most cases. Free shipping on most cases, and I'm happy to help you. And Booker is actually one of the wines one of the first wines that we put on our website.
You've always been supportive of
We've
wine.
been really supportive, because
Yeah.
I love Paso, Paces, however you want to pronounce it.
You can say it however you want.
I love Paso. I love the winemaking culture there. I love
and
that.
it's such a great value. I mean, Napa is Napa, and we love
Cali,
Napa.
Cavs,
I mean,
Cali,
it's some of
This is
the
a
best wines of the world come out of Napa Valley. I mean, we just did an event where we recreated the Paris tasting of 76.
Yeah.
Why was I
Watch Bottle Shock if you
no
haven't watched
invite.
that before.
No invite.
Well, it was with the country club, so
Okay.
I'm sorry. But
and the Napa wines won again.
The Napa wines won again, and they some of the best wines come out of Napa Valley. So Napa's Napa, but for something a little bit stylistically a little bit different, but they're at the the same
and there was
caliber.
There was a sort of, if you will, a judgment of Paso that occurred where, a number of years ago, you had some of the best of the best Paso wines going against some of the best Napa wines, and it was a blind tasting that was set up. And sure enough, it was some of the Paso wines that came out on top, even over some of the best Napa wines. And that really helped. Paso is an industry that has not been around as long as Napa and Sonoma, and it really helped people kind of take a look at that and say, in the business, and say, oh wow, Paso is an area, tour de force. This is an area we need to pay attention to, and there's going to be some really great things coming. But it's
fun to visit.
Yeah, and it's an amazing climate. I mean, some people say some of the parts of Paso. I mean, you have like the weather of like St. Helena and Napa. And then you have some incredible soils, in Paso, and you have like a beautiful diurnal temperature swing, which is extraordinarily important for grape growing so that you get optimal ripeness, but you also get acidity.
It's crazy there. So it'll be 100 degrees during the day.
Yeah.
And then by 5 p.m., it'll have dropped 30 degrees. And by 8 p.m., have dropped another 20. It can go from 100 degrees to 50 degrees.
Yeah.
That's why you can't grow grapes in Tampa. You need that kind of differential.
Yeah. You do. It can't be hot all the time. And I mean, Napa Valley, they have the influence of the fog from the bay and the Pacific Ocean, which obviously helps there. But
so there's something. There's an aura to my favorite neighbor by Booker. His 2018 Cabernet Sauvignon, delicious. It would be a go-to for me if I was a Cabernet drinker. I'm not, as you know, I'm Brunello, Barolo, Montepulciano kind of guy. But
so you didn't marry a teacher.
However, we do love Booker, and this is at least 92, 95 points.
High 90s. It always scores
95 plus?
Yeah, 97. I
97.
think the last
Boom!
10 or 7 vintages of this have scored above 97 points.
She just dropped 97 points.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's why it's such an experience. I mean, it's sensory all around, on the eye, on the nose, on the palate. Delicious for $59.99. This is a special occasion wine that I think is also affordable at the same time.
It's also, I mean, I like sharing these stories because I hope that people have their own dinner parties and they share the stories with other people, because that's what makes wine so special. It's all about who you're experiencing with.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with drinking by yourself. But it's all about like those experiences that you share. You know what I mean? You can practice the story.
We've all been there,
right?
Yeah.
But it's. I mean, give a bottle to your neighbor. You know, maybe you guys are arguing about his hedges are coming over to your. You know, give a bottle to your neighbor, and maybe that'll solve the problem.
Next time you have your neighbors over for dinner, you have a bottle of that just kind of sitting there, and they see that, and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm their favorite neighbor."
Yeah.
Like,
It's a great conversation starter. It's
just so
really
kitschy
cool.
and cool. It's like, I know Paso's not, I feel like we're talking like a wine out of Austin, Texas, like right now, or like Portland. It's so kitschy and so cool.
Yeah, it is.
And that's why I guess it caught the eye of Constellation. You got your track record speaks for itself. You guys buy everyone. You don't compete. You just buy them. But
this is more of a partnership.
This is more of a partnership. Okay. So it's not. This is a partnership.
That makes sense. Why they caught the eye of Constellation.
And I think sometimes, I'm glad you brought this up. It's when you're a consumer of something, and you hear that it's been acquired or purchased by a big company. I think that can be scary for some of us, but most companies, good companies, including mine and a lot of the others in the wine business or beer business,
Constellation is a good company.
That company doesn't want to come in and screw everything that's going on. They want to keep things going.
The integrity of the wines.
The integrity, but it's all about capital. It's all about money. And there's a lot of benefits to the employees. I mean, they end up getting
401ks and benefits,
and and they also end up getting more money to be able to make their product better, higher quality, and do things. I mean, something that's very important to Constellation is sustainability. Moving all of the vineyards to be organic, and that is not cheap. Yeah. So it's really giving that capital to do that. So I urge people. I know I had this conversation with my husband about like a brewery that we loved that was purchased, and it's like you can't automatically go negative. It's good companies. They don't want to screw up what's going well. They want to help it even become better.
And I was having a talk with a friend of mine who's a theologian. Yes, this is a wine show, but he said a lot of people get that old adage wrong about money being the root of all problems. It's the greed for money being the root of all problems.
Oh yeah.
So capital coming from a multinational to support this local and this fascinating, wine with aura is a good thing. I mean, we're just broadening their capabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so that's
Absolutely.
capital. So it's
a partnership.
Yeah, it's a partnership, and I really get that from Constellation. I don't know why Krysti is like the only person I know from this $1 trillion company, but I really get that from her company that they get this, that we can't look at things from 30,000 feet in our G7. We got to get on the floor.
Well, and it's just like the rosé that we were talking about, Lafette. It's, you know, the president of the Wine and Spirits. He's very committed to diversity and being inclusive of all different kinds of people, and so they
create $100 million diversity fund, which
it's really
that's
cool.
nothing to sneeze
really
at
cool.
in the venture capital world.
Well, on top of every other investing that they had been doing, and honestly, I mean, if you check out Constellation Ventures, the website, and you can see some of the companies and products that they have invested into, it's really cool. I mean, it's a lot of minorities, it's a lot of women. It's a lot of really creative ideas, and for me, it's always somewhere that I go and check out to see. You can always count on Constellation being the first to what's
ahead of the curve.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
to the first of what's next. Like, what's going to be the next
So
big
can
thing?
we pivot to your Canopy Growth acquisition?
I mean, I'm still trying to figure out when cannabis becomes legal, like how I'm going to explain to my father and grandfather that I'm now so weed.
So Canopy Growth was a cannabis company that was acquired by Constellation.
Not acquired, but it was invested.
It was another partnership.
Yeah, huge.
It was
I mean, I
another
think it's
partnership.
like almost $1 billion now. Or,
Yeah.
So that's very
500
interesting
million.
that Constellation's always ahead of the curve, always looking forward, 20 chess moves ahead. I can tell. I get that sense, and without being arrogant about it, because everyone, like I said, everyone.
Eventually you'll see cannabis in wine at some point.
yeah, there's already cannabis
movements
infused
and, yeah.
beverages and
Non-alcoholic.
non-alcoholic, but it's. I mean, that is.
So you
that's
want to
the
be
future.
cool, you need to watch this show, because we
Yes.
know what's cool before you know.
You are
what's
so
cool.
cool, Mike.
Well, no, you guys
Holly,
are like,
you are so cool.
no.
You're way cooler.
Hey, we're the cool kids. We're the cool kids. We just enjoyed Unshackled's Red Blend. Which vintage?
The 2019
19.
The
and
2019.
the 2019 cab as well, and the My Favorite Neighbor 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon.
All these are available on CaseWineLife.com.
CaseWineLife.com.
Free shipping on most cases. And we don't bash wines on the show. We just don't drink them if they suck. So if you haven't noticed,
We're only going to pick what we like.
I've been refilling my glasses. There are some other reviewers out there on the internet who will bash wineries and wine companies and winemakers, but I feel like just getting out of bed and going to work and giving it your best shot, I give 100 points for that.
Need more positivity in the world.
Yeah,
More
we know,
positivity.
even if it's shitty juice, I'll give
It
you-
doesn't matter. We all like different things.
We all like
you
different things.
You like olives. I don't.
But I'm.
You like Barolo. I do too.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
you know, we all like different things, and we should all be respectful of what people like.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what
We
I
will
mean? And
never
if it's
bash a wine on this show.
$6 or if it's $60, who cares
Hey,
if you like it?
I'm always game for finding a $6 wine that I like.
if you like
Absolutely.
it, that's what it's all about.
And I'm
Yeah.
thinking about the grape, Vineyard. I forget what Matthew Meyer, how he referred to his Vineyard team. Is it the Vineyard team? The grape pickers?
Yeah. Mhm.
The Vineyard team. So I'm always thinking about the Vineyard team. So when you bash that bottle of wine, to your audience, just think about the Vineyard team that was out there,
Whether
You know-
it's a $6 wine or a $35 wine or something, I mean, there is work that's happening.
There's nothing
in terms of
half-hearted
tending
about
the
their work.
vines and-
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
It's not easy work, and there's nothing half-hearted about. That's the next time you want to bash a bottle of wine. Just think about that. You don't have to drink it, but just think about that. And so that's what we're
and
doing.
you don't have to like it.
And you don't have to like it either. You don't have to like
We'll
it.
drink it.
We'll drink it. We'll
We'll
drink it.
definitely drink it.
But is there anything that our viewership needs to know besides all the pot that's being smoked at Constellation right now?
It's not.
Okay.
It is not.
Okay,
no.
of
Only
course
where
not.
it's legal.
Only where it's legal, within legal guidelines,
But
of course.
no, just thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I think Mike, it's so cool that you are doing this, and you say you don't have knowledge, but you have way more knowledge than
Thank you so much, Krysti.
you think you do.
That's why we get along. She gives me these compliments.
Like when you pulled 85% out in the Australian episode, I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? Mind blown.
I like to read, so I always tell her. So, as you know, Holly works for Republic National, second largest distributor, also top 10 place to work in America. And Krysti, of course, works at Constellation, the $1 trillion company, wine, spirits, and weed,
And beer.
and beer. But I always ask them for point of sale or literature, because I actually read all that point of sale and literature. It's really interesting, and it's their job to read it, but they are not in this business because it's their job. And I would not. Okay, Holly's been a perennial special guest. Krysti, we're gonna have back again for the Soprano episode about the Ruffino wine, but. It's like they are interested in wine, and they don't read all the literature that they get from their corporates or the corporate or their management, but because they are really.
We do read that.
We definitely do.
They read it because they really are interested.
But we
in
read
stuff.
other stuff too.
Yes.
And they read
Yeah.
other stuff too,
Yeah.
supplement all that. But like they will drop knowledge bombs on me in the middle of I don't know, I'm watching like a Sopranos rerun or like, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like.
We all have to remember that it's constantly evolving, and just like everything else in the world, we're all learning new things about everything all the time. So wine is always changing. You can't know it all, and you can't know everything. And what's very motivating for Holly and I, and probably not you, Mike, is that people want to learn. I mean, people want to learn and know about wine. And so the fact that you're putting this on and giving a chance to have a very informal discussion about wine, I mean, at the end of the day, it's alcohol. It's really
fermented
freaking
grape
cool.
juice.
Yeah. But it's alcohol, and all of the stories and the science and the complexities and the work that goes into it's part of it, but it's also, wine is about sitting down, enjoying fun times with people and the memories you make from that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
To me,
absolutely.
to us.
Absolutely.
Let's
Do a
toast,
last cheers.
Let's toast to that sediment
Yeah.
from Constellation, because we're gonna get a bill probably. But
No. Oh, stop. Mike.
they're so good at business. No, I'm kidding. They're an awesome company.
I've even given you wine. Come on.
No. They
Your
are
wife's
not-
gonna be thrilled.
They are an awesome company, and it's so happy to have Krysti on the show. Constellation.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Salute.
Never
Salute.
thought I'd have this much red wine at 10:30. Usually it's white.
Salute.
Cheers.
Salud.
Salud.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, comment, like. Thank you.